Country Talk Radio. You're in to all things music.
May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Hey. Happy Friday, everybody. You are tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Intertalk, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. And I am Scott Robertson, that guy he was talking about, your host, and a man who really defines the slogan, I want to be a Toys R Us kid. And with me in the booth is Cedric today. How's it going, Cedric? Cedric the mixer. You mixing things? You making it happen?
Oh, yeah. Trying.
Nice, man. Nice. You got big plans for the weekend? What are you doing?
Now that you mention it, and I've like passed by a couple times, right? We were at Pitbull Audio down south, one of our sponsors, right? Quick plug.
Sure.
And there's a Toys R Us on the way there.
I know. I'm going to talk about not good news about Toys R Us this week, by the way.
But it could be good news for me if they're like selling everything like real cheap, you know. I can get everything that my mom said no to now.
There you go. One man's losing is another man's winning.
Exactly.
That's what I say. Well, fun. We're going to talk a little more about Toys R Us in this episode of The Big Show, and you're tuned into it right now. If you want to reach me, and some people do occasionally, here's how. My email is scott@robertsoncom.com. My website is robertsoncom.com, and not surprisingly, all of my social handles follow that family very nicely. So Twitter, it's @robertsoncom, and Facebook, it's facebook.com/robertsoncom. 2 M's like communication for all of that. And we are streaming on Periscope. So if you want to see a 47, almost 40-year-old white guy with glasses on talking into a microphone, and that is your idea of entertainment, then that's what you want to do on Periscope @robertsoncom. You can find that feed. So while we talk about marketing and stuff, it's a lot of fun. So this is episode 80 of The Big Show. 80. When you reach 100, they give you the key to San Diego. It's a ceremony. You go down, they hand you the key, and then they say, that's it. You're done. You've reached 100 episodes. You're in syndication now all over the world, and now there's no more need for you to record any new shows. It's all good. So hoping to get there someday. But episode 80, I call the T word. And we're going to talk about trust. We're going to talk about the T word quite a bit. And the reason I decided to do this topic was, I talk about trust a lot. If you listen to the show, if you listen to all the previous 79 episodes, if there's one theme that goes through, is the fact that that trust is really, really important thing. But this is what struck me this week, is I recently commented, somebody posted on one of these online forums with a lot of marketing professionals, and they said, what is the true purpose of marketing? Which is one of those questions where you could write a couple of pages on what on the answer of that. But what struck me was, and there were several hundred responses, and most of the responses were, to sell, to promote, to make things easier for sales, to prepare the customer, to create awareness, blah blah blah, all these kind of things. We're kind of written down, in this thread as we're following it. And I said something very different. I said trust. And if you listen to me talk about marketing, I'm in a different place than apparently a lot of the rest of the industry. A lot of the rest of the marketing industry thinks it's perfectly fine to, engage in a lot of these marketing tactics that have created entire industries for people can make money off of setting up solutions to block this type of marketing. But I don't think that. I think that the goal of marketing should always be trust. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the concept of trust, the human emotion of trust, and we're going to talk about a lot of interesting aspects of it. See, I believe that consumers, both on the B2B, business to business and business to consumer side, do not trust marketing. They do not trust marketing. Why would they? We have created a society today where companies believe it's perfectly fine to get someone's phone number, buy it off a list, call them, email them, text them, interrupt them, just beat them over the head constantly with the message until the customer falls to their knees in like a last gasp, gives in and buys something just so the company will go away and shut the hell up. Right? So that's not what it was supposed to be. That is not, that should not be permissible to us, as marketers. And yet it is. When I review the marketing mix of several companies, they have pages and pages of different tactics that they're doing. Well, we're sending out this email, we're doing this kind of thing. Not once does it ever say, we are trying to build relationships, we're trying to build trust. Not once do they think about the audience that they're inflicting this garbage on constantly. I got 7 emails from Musician's Friend this week. 7. It's Friday. I've been counting. I got 7 different emails from them. They email me once a day. Occasionally, I buy strings. Occasionally, I buy strings for my bass. I've bought a few musical purchases. Here and there, little things. But somewhere in their marketing scheme, it makes sense to them to annoy me 7 times with something that I clearly don't want. I clearly have not asked for. And why haven't I unsubscribed from Musician's Friend, you might ask? Because it's easy to do. The first button on my phone says unsubscribe when I get those emails. I'm curious. I'm actually curious to see how far they'll go. I want to see will it be more than 7 next week? Will there be 9? How many times do you continue to do the same thing and get no results off of it and pretend that is marketing? Right? That's the question I think we need to ask our marketing industry as a whole. But today we're going to talk about how we build trust, how we lose it, and again, why it should be the goal. So let's dig into this thing. Trust is a human emotion. It is complex, like most human emotions are when you study them. So in the social context, it has several connotations. Basically, well, first of all, the most common definition of trust is the firm belief in the reliability, truth, ability, or strength of someone or something, right? It's a belief, right? It's a belief, which means it's subjective, which means it's in the eye of the beholder, whether there is or isn't trust. Very very difficult. Trust can be attributed to relationships between people. It can be demonstrated that humans have a natural disposition to trust and to judge trustworthiness that can sort of be traced back to our brains, to our neurobiological structure and the activity of the human brain. In some studies, this one will fascinate you. I don't have time to quite get into this, but I was reading some studies that trust is a human emotional state, and it can actually be altered by the application of certain drugs, like let's say oxytocin, for example. So, unreal that trust can be manipulated by drugs. I got to say, maybe we have to dig into that even further. But what I want to talk about a couple of things as it relates to trust that I think are important. There are some variables that you can measure, because we could sit here and just talk about emotional states all day, but there are some scientists have tried to kind of put some concrete sides to the box on this thing. There are a couple of dimensions of trust. Predictability is one of them. It's the normal part of the human condition that is constantly forecasting ahead. We tend to kind of build models of the world based on our experiences, and we use these to kind of guess what's going to happen next. This allows us to kind of spot and prepare for threats, right? And to make plans to achieve longer-term goals. The greatest unpredictability is at 50%, and a reliable enemy can be preferable to an unpredictable friend, right? So trust means being able to predict what other people will do and what situations will occur. Remember, our minds seek this predictability. So trust is an answer for that, being able to kind of, it can be measured in one aspect of that. I think the predictability part is kind of fascinating. Number 2 is a value exchange. Basically, most of what we do with other people is based around an exchange, right? It's an exchange of goods, like I'll swap you, 2 sheep for 1 cow sort of thing. And it's easy to calculate the value in such kind of bargaining like that. But trust in value exchange occurs when we do not know fully whether what we're receiving is what we expect. When we buy a car, we don't expect to be sold a lemon, right? Which the seller knows is faulty. When you get advice in business, you want it to be based on fact, not wild opinions. So number 2 definition of trust means making an exchange with someone when you don't have the full knowledge about them, their intent, or the things that they are offering you. Important. The third thing I want to talk about is the concept of delayed reciprocity. Exchange is about an immediate swapping of cows and sheep, or hugs and kisses, or whatever you want. But it makes companies and societies work is basically the return is paid back in some way in the future, right? So this is kind of the golden rule, is a simple formula for creating trust. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It sets up the dynamic for my giving you something with the hope of getting something back unspecified in the indeterminate future. So our definition 3 of trust means giving something now with an expectation that it might be repaid, possibly in some unspecified way with an unspecific time in the future. Almost all business referrals work on this principle, right? I've got networking. I've got a great marketing person for your company, and then that great marketing person at some point will find a place to repay you for that favor and maybe bring your business into into something. That delayed reciprocity is another important element. But the last thing that I want to talk about regarding these variables is our exposed vulnerabilities. When we trust other people, we may not be giving them something in the hope of getting something back in the future, but we're exposing ourselves in a way that people can take advantage of our vulnerabilities. So our fourth thing we want to look at in trust means enabling people to take advantage of your vulnerabilities, but expecting that they will not do this. This is critically important in branding. You must understand, when I talk about things like letting go of the brand, being vulnerable, those kind of things, this is exactly why you do that. This is exactly why trust always involves some sort of exposed vulnerability. And there's always risk. There's risk inherent with that. Welcome to Human Relationships 101, ladies and gentlemen. Very, very important. So, we look at those 4 variables, which I think is kind of fascinating. How do we get trust? How do we get it? There's a common misnomer about trust that basically people can earn trust. This is complete fiction, by the way. There is no scale in which people can earn trust. What you meant to say was this: there's certain criteria that I have in my mind, at which point I will open up my vulnerabilities and I will give you that trust. Trust is always given. It is never earned. There is no way to earn trust. That is, like I said, there's no way that could be any more false. That's not even possible. It is given by someone to someone else. We talked about it already being a subjective belief system in somebody's head. So if you're, I used to, when I had a larger, team, trust is one of the hardest things as a new manager can learn, because you want to hold everything. You want to hold everything to you, right? Because you don't want that exposed vulnerability, right? But and then some people say, oh well, she made some typos on that, so I can't trust her to do that work again, and so now she's gonna have to build back. She's gonna have to earn it. She's gonna have to earn it. Well, that's great, but what you actually said was, I don't choose to give her my trust on this until she can, prove to me through a series of repetitions or whatever Olympic games I want to create for her, in my mind. She's got to run around the track 4 times, at a certain time frame. And when all these conditions are met to my satisfaction, then I will bestow upon her my trust once more. I say that because some people believe like everybody kind of experiences it the same way. You're talking about a human emotion that no one experiences the exact same way. Really, really important. Now, for the purposes of marketing, we can lose trust really easy. How do we lose trust? How do we lose trust as brands? Biggest ways? Lie. Dishonesty. Dishonesty is a huge one. Obviously, almost any scandal that we talk about in the losing section or that comes up in the marketing, that comes up in the marketing world, the nastiest ones like Wells Fargo and Chipotle and those kind of things involve deception and dishonesty, because now our exposed vulnerabilities, we lock back up, right? We lock back up, and then at some point the brand has to earn that trust back, right? Or what whatever that means for people. So I do think it's really, really important to understand that trust can be very, very easily lost. It is hard to win. It is subjective, and so it is different to win for everyone. But I do think, as I mentioned at the top of this segment, that it needs to be the goal. I think that if marketing started out with the goal that we want to build trust, you wouldn't see this parade of stupid that we see on an ongoing basis. When you look at the marketing world, I have 30 years of marketing experience. I've looked at it for a long time. When you look at it, over 30 years, you see a long, unending parade of stupid that goes on. It all comes from the same place. It comes from not thinking things through, not starting with the right goals, And I think it's because all these marketers on this forum were talking about different things. If you look at your job in marketing as promotion and an amplifier and all these kind of things, and you don't really see it as trust, then everything is going to be changed for you. But it can change back, and that's what I'm hopeful of. And you are so smart because you are tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Intertalk Media, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. Come on back. We're gonna talk about the parade of stupid continues with winning and losing. We'll see you in a few. Thanks.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on InterTalkRadio.com.
May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Hey, it is still Friday. I am still Scott. You are smart because you are still tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Intertalk Media, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. I am hanging out with Cedric today. Cedric the Mixer. How's it going, Cedric?
It's going all right. So you know how you were saying, like, after 100 episodes, you're done?
Yeah.
Or most podcasts are done, right?
That's what I'm hoping. Yeah.
But, like, even after 100 episodes, there's still going to be stupid things in marketing.
I know. I know.
Your job will never end. How do you feel about that?
I know, right? I'm just hoping to if I get to 100, my agent says I go into syndication and I can retire. Oh. And I'm really excited about that. I've been told that is what all podcast hosts want to get to.
I mean, I hope the stupidity of marketing retires with you, but
that'd be nice.
I don't think so.
I tell you what, the stupid of marketing is always going to be with us, I'm afraid. And what a wonderful segue into this next segment where we're going to talk about who's winning and losing this week in the wonderful world of marketing. And we're going to start off with a frequent flyer in the Parade of Stupid segment here, which is United Airlines. So United Airlines, oh, man, it's just not fair, honestly, to keep talking about the mistakes. But they had some other issues. Last week, they created a lottery system for employee bonuses. So it's not the worst. Okay, it's not the worst idea I've ever heard in the world, right? Instead of giving people, instead of giving everyone a bonus of like $375 for each quarter that the airline met its operational goals, they decided to put everybody's name in a hat and do a lottery system for some bigger prizes, right? Because $375, it's nice, but it's not changing your life, right? But they thought, oh, let's put it into the big pot, and then some of the prizes were $100,000. Now you're talking, right? $100,000, a Mercedes-Benz C-Class sedan. Remind me to tell you my story with my Mercedes-Benz C-Class. It was not a happy story. I don't have happy thoughts of that brand. Speaking of trust, by the way, but only workers with perfect attendance for records with a particular quarter would be eligible. So employees were furious, and they signed an online petition condemning the decision. They voiced their concerns on an internal company forum. Of course, many news outlets got wind of this story, including like the New York Times and TechCrunch and those kind of people. And last week, the president of United Airlines, which needs to come with like hazard pay, by the way, told employees that the company was rethinking the lottery program. Are you ready for the good CEO quote? Are you ready for some BS? Here we go. Our intention was to introduce a better, more exciting program, but we misjudged how these changes would be received by many of you, he wrote. So we are pressing the pause button on these changes to review your feedback and consider the right way to move ahead. Okay. Oh, I don't suppose anyone's heard of research. I don't suppose anyone's heard of a smaller group of employees to run something by, or talking to people before you do stupid stuff in your own company that could really, just keep taking your brand into the toilet bowl. 80,000 employees, right? Some of them have got to work in HR and corporate communications. There's got to be some people there, right, that said, hey, we're going to do this employee lottery deal. Oh, have we asked people what they think of that? Oh, yeah, I asked, whatever. Have we asked a representative sample of our 80,000 employees what they might think of that? Oh, it's tied to perfect attendance. Have we asked any of the people who didn't have perfect attendance maybe how they feel about it? Oh, we just asked the perfect attendance people, so we're stupid, right? That's what we're going to do then. And then we're going to make the CEO is going to have to make up a complete BS quote that some guy's going to read on his radio show later. Yeah. Okay. Think things through. Okay. Honestly, losing huge. Stop it. United Airlines. I would love to do a show and not mention United Airlines, but it's impossible to because their stupidity just comes jumping out of my news feed every single week. Oh, let's move to the NRA. Ooh, not just dumb, but really evil. So the NRA decided this week to combat all of its bad popular opinion over, obviously gun violence is a huge topic right now for tremendous reasons. The NRA issued a threatening video which warned journalists who wrote about this, that your time is running out. So I've seen this video, and it absolutely stuns me. It absolutely stuns me. The gall of the NRA to be able to do. I just did a show a few shows ago that talked about love letter to the press, how important the press are, how important. Yeah, the press makes some bad decisions. Yeah, there's bias. Yeah, you look at the New York Times and you roll your eyes and go, man, who's paying for all this? There is that. It is imperfect. It is absolutely imperfect. But issuing a threatening video warning journalists that if they don't get the story right, their time is running out is among the dumber things that I've seen in my entire career. What do you possibly, what would you possibly hope to gain from this? It's like, on the subject of gun violence, we talked about companies that were standing up in the face of this last week. We talked about Dick's Sporting Goods saying we're not going to sell assault rifles anymore. We talked about Walmart saying we're going to raise the minimum age for this. We talked about other the industry sort of self-regulating. We know Congress is bought. They're not going to do nothing, baby. They are bought by these people. But then the NRA, in one of the dumbest public relations moves of my lifetime, issues a warning video warning journalists that don't that continue to talk about this story that your time is running out. I mean, this is a great time for saying something like this. If I'm in the room and somebody mentions this, I would come out with the statement that goes like this: what the hell is the matter with you? What are you thinking? What is your problem? Who hurt you? And have you taken your medication today? None of this makes any sense and shouldn't have been done. And it's like they got destroyed. The press are like, I'm sorry, our time is running out. Now we're really interested in looking up you guys. I went to journalism school, University of Missouri, Columbia. Journalists love the fact, if they feel like you're hiding a story for them, you can't threaten them away. And if you threaten them, they're going to come harder. I don't know a journalist out there that doesn't come harder for you if you decide to not cooperate, and in this case, start to threaten them. What's the matter with you, NRA? I mean, obviously we know what's the matter with you, but I'm just saying, try to keep it under wraps a little bit more. And that's too much dumb for me to talk about in one program. Who did something great this week though was McDonald's here in Linwood, California. It was really, really interesting. Yesterday was International Women's Day, right? And the McDonald's in Linwood, California, flipped its golden arches upside down to make it a W, right? The golden M was going to be flipped into a golden W in celebration of women everywhere. Of course, they have the quote about we have a long history of supporting women, blah, 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 and diversity and all. And 6 out of 10 of our restaurant managers are women, yada, yada. Great stunt. Great stunt. Absolutely well done. It was covered a lot of places. Really creative and extremely well done, here in the region. It was covered all over good old Southern California. And so I'm going to say extremely well done. And you absolutely should, be recognizing those women. It's great that we have, International Women's Day. Women need to be recognized. Absolutely. I was raised by a single mother, so you don't have to sell me on that idea. But kudos to McDonald's, and we're going to put them heavily in the winning category this week. Social media. Have you noticed on your social networks that maybe some people are starting to kind of tire of them and drop off, right? Well, there's a new study out that says millennials are starting to hate social media too. And millennials are getting sick of Instagram in particular. More than half of the users between the ages of 18 and 24 revealed that they are seeking relief from social media, according to the survey. The poll, which was taken in December, found that 34% of young users reported having deleted their social media accounts entirely. 41% of respondents said they waste too much time on social media, and 35% agreed that people their age are too distracted by their online lives. Keep watching this, folks. Keep watching this. You know how people always say, oh, the best way to reach young people is Instagram. The best way to reach them is Snapchat and Instagram. Watch the data. Watch the data and stay up on it. Very, very important. You don't want to be the best marketing people in December 2017 when it's March 2018. You know what I mean? Stay up on this stuff. Watch the data. But we're going to put all social media that are trying to target millennials in the losing category. And this will be a fascinating thing to watch. Facebook is the largest, obviously, and then everybody else is sort of, down the chain from that. So it'll be interesting to see, are we seeing Facebook's numbers, start to slide too? Are people getting sick of social media? I guarantee you one thing, marketing. I read another story that said advertisers are planning to spend, $55, billion or whatever on digital marketing. And particularly, they want to do sponsored posts on Facebook. Hey, marketing, do you know what everybody on Facebook doesn't want? Your crap. They don't want your crap anywhere in their feed. They are looking in the mirror. They are looking at puppy dog videos. They are looking at where my band's playing on Friday night. They better be looking. My band is playing Saturday night, by the way, in Lake Forest, and make sure you're there. But, they don't care about your sponsored garbage. Understand that you're in a private party, man. You're in a private feed, and you got to have some serious cojones for opening up your sales table and going, would you like some Thin Mints, in the middle of somebody's private party. I mean, that's what you're doing. Pay attention. Know where the hell you are. Don't do anything dumb like that. It's very, very important if you're going to use social media. So social media, definitely something to keep watching. We'll put them on losing for this week, though. Let's talk about Toys R Us for a second. Toys R Us, I talked about at the top of the show. Toys R Us is out of business. They are liquidating all business operations in the United States of America and abroad. Bankrupt retailer Toys R Us may shut all of its U.S. stores as soon as next week, according to several reports. A spokesperson for the company declined to comment on the liquidation chatter, but according to regulatory filings for both companies, Toys R Us, accounted for they're in a lot of trouble, and they account for a lot of sales for some major manufacturers like Hasbro and Mattel in particular. So I think it's bad. I said this on my Facebook feed earlier. It's hard. Retail's always been hard, but retail is really hard when you have, huge rent, tons of employees, you have all these kind of things. And it's like, I think people have to rethink this model, that model from the, 1970s, of big giant stores filled with tons of employees. I just don't see any companies like that really able to make that model work anymore. Because you can't raise prices. If you raise prices, then Amazon got you, or some other online retailer, Alibaba's got you, somebody else has got you. So it's like you're stuck. You can't raise prices, but then your other costs of these commercial real estate and these employees and all these kind of things, they just keep going up, right? So, I'm kind of surprised Toys R Us didn't reinvent itself as a smaller type of toy store, or the kind of, what could they do as like a niche toy store, that kind of thing, or maybe they end up, since 10% of their sales is Hasbro's Mattel. What if they just became like an Apple store for Hasbro and Mattel products kind of thing? Personally, that's what I would have done. But hey, what are you going to do? I think it's sad. I think it's sad to see Toys R Us go down, and it's sad to see all these retailers go down. But I think that the lesson learned is that models change, and you can't just keep forcing the same model and going, "Hey, it's still 1975. This will probably work, right?" No, it won't. Very important. The last thing that I think I want to talk about is I saw a study today about the 11% of Americans who don't use the internet, that from Pew Research, that I thought was pretty fascinating. Did you know that there are, first of all, ladies and gentlemen, did you know that there are 11% of U.S. adults who do not use the internet? Amazing, right? I got to say. And so I was really curious about this. By the way, and if you want to see who these folks are in terms of, Pew Research stuff, go to pewresearch.org and, PEW, pewresearch.org, and then check out the story, about 11% of Americans don't use the internet, and check that out because it's really interesting. But it, senior citizens are the group that most likely say they never go online. Although the share of non-internet users ages 65 and older decreased by 7 percentage points in 2016, about a third today do not use the internet, compared with only 2% of that, of 18 to 29-year-olds. So roughly 1 in 3 adults with less than a high school education do not use the internet, but that share falls as the educational attainment increases. So adults from households that earn less than $30,000 a year are far more likely than affluent adults to not use the internet. So you've got seniors, you've got folks with lesser education level, and folks with lesser income not on the internet. And the offline population has actually declined substantially since the year 2000. It's another interesting piece that you want to check out. It's been a pretty steady fall. So I think we're going to, in terms of winning and losing, I think we're going to put the internet in still winning. I mean, because the offline population has declined, but just it's an interesting fact that 11% of folks out there just really aren't affected in anything that goes on in the online world. And I just, as a marketer, I think, you are looking at 11% of the population of the United States of America, right? So as much as we kind of like to pretend that, we can hit everybody, just know that, you need to have some offline marketing still going on if you want to hit folks like this as well. And again, I encourage you to check out the data on that study because it's really interesting. And you are really interesting because you are tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Intertalk Media, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. Come on back. We're going to talk about how you can build brand trust. See you in a few.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on intertalkradio.com.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Hey, it is Friday, everybody, and you are still tuned to Made the Best Brand Win on Intertalk Media, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. We just talked about a bunch of people winning and losing and a bunch of companies winning and losing. Cedric, what tickled your fancy today? What do you like?
You know who's really losing, Scott?
Lay it on me.
All the little children out there who can't buy toys. And I'm talking like, you know, Power Ranger stuff, and also like Gibson ES335s. Those are toys.
Oh, look at
right?
you.
Yeah.
Look at you.
Those are toys.
You're digging on
Overpriced.
Gibson.
But they're toys.
They are toys.
Yeah.
Those are at Guitars R Us.
Oh, yeah.
There's no Guitars R Us. Yeah, there's Guitar Center.
There's a
R Us.
Pitbull. Ooh, there you go.
Pitbull Audio.
There
That's
you
what
go.
I'm talking about. Yeah, I think it's sad to see Toys R Us. You know, because as a kid, you have these great memories of going to this, you know, this world of all these toys and just being, you know, your dopamine sensors are just firing on all cylinders and everything. And it's like kids, you know, won't necessarily get to do that. But I guess their dopamine sensors probably fire like hell on when they're going through Amazon.com and looking at toys
Something
online.
like that, probably.
You know, because there weren't no internet when we walked through the beloved halls of Toys R Us. There weren't no internets at that time.
You know what? Maybe you should do this on another segment, but I feel like commercials, at least like commercials centered towards kids, were like way more interesting in the 90s. It could also have been just whatever drugs they were on at the time. Because those like Hot Wheels commercials were weird, man.
Before the government got in and started regulating what they could say to children. Oh, for the children, you can't sell the children.
Yeah.
It's like the children already want to buy. Trust me.
Oh, yeah.
Trust me. That's already a motivated customer. You don't have to sell them too hard. They're motivated. Yeah. Well, then, let's talk about trust one more time. Because we're back on episode 80. We're talking about trust the whole show. You know, one interesting little news bit before I get to, I'm going to give you some tips on how to build brand trust. But before I get there, an interesting story came out. There was a study that came out in Science magazine, which I highly recommend, by the way. Fantastic magazine. And 3 researchers at MIT published a study in Science that basically shows that false information spreads faster and further, deeper and more broadly than true information. And that human beings, not bots, not Skynet, not AI, not Russia, are to blame. Interesting study. So basically, the researchers looked at a broad swath of news stories and rumors shared on Twitter, for example, from its launch in 2006 up to 2017. And overall, they analyzed the spread of approximately 126,000 stories tweeted by 3 million people over 4.5 million times. And the stories they used were ones that had been verified or debunked by 6 fact-checking organizations: Snopes, Political Fact, Fact Check, Truth or Fiction, Hoax Slayer, UrbanLegends.com. And they took those stories, either deemed true or false, and looked at how they spread on Twitter. And they analyzed the cascades of the retweet change and kind of shared the information. If a story is tweeted by 10 people separately, none of which are retweeted, it has 10 cascades the size of one, that kind of thing. And they kind of go into the methodology of it. But really, they determined that, that false information spread faster and further, deeper, and again, more broadly than true information, right? So on the subject of trust, understand that you are pitching into a world and talking into a world that loves to spread false information. Right? So know that going in, right? And I just think it's an important kind of piece to keep in mind. But now I'm going to switch gears while I have time and make sure I give you some good tips on how you can build brand trust. We talked about trust. We talked that it's an emotion. We talked about it's subjective. There are some things that you can measure about it. There are some interesting aspects of trust that you can delve into that I hit in segment 1 back there. But, you know, now we're going to talk about, you're in charge of a brand. You're in charge of a company. how can you build this brand trust? How can you end up in the winning section of this show and not the losing section? How can you be the anti-United Airlines? In other words, how can you build that brand trust? Number one answer on the Family Feud here is be about them. If I see one mistake made over and over and over again in marketing communications, it's that our message is not about them. It's not about the audience. It's about us. It's about, and I say this a lot. I'm like a plumber who's the same clog in every house he goes into, and pretty soon you're just like, yep. Without even looking, you're like, I'm gonna say it's that clog. I'm gonna say it's this pipe. I'm gonna say it's this. And ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I will submit to you that every single person who's having trouble with communications comes to me and their message is broken because their message goes something like this. We've been in business for 25 years and we have this certification and we are this and we have these people and we have this and we have this. And the first thing I say to them, which sometimes ends the meeting, by the way, the first thing I say to them is I say, no one cares about you. No one cares. If your parents are still alive, call them. They don't care either. Nobody cares. People care about themselves. 1 billion%. Make a bumper sticker on it. Make a T-shirt. Put it up in front of your, in front of your computer. People only care about themselves and their needs. If you want them to trust you, you have to start by being about what they're interested in, being about their actual needs. Do like a little bit of thinking as to what that might be and be about that. Be all about that. Dial you out of it. No one cares. No one cares. And sometimes people say, well, Scott, people have told us that they're really excited I'm wearing for 25. I was like, no, they're not. They're being polite. What they care about are, do you have a solution to my problem? Are you something that helps me complete an I am statement about myself emotionally in my brain? If you want my trust, then what are you going to do for me? And I'm not talking about like a deal, like 10% off, whatever. I'm saying, what role does your company play in my emotional journey? Right? That's the work of marketing right there. That's what marketing does. We do the little flip the prism jujitsu move where we put our stuff in front of their stuff. And if you do that well, then marketing becomes so easy it's not even funny. But if you always start, if you want to build brand trust, by being about them first. Very important. I fix this problem all the time. Several times per week, I get calls from companies. And now I just start off this way. I'm just like, without you even tell me, I guarantee you there's a problem with the message. Let's fix it. Let's just fix that. Number 2, be helpful. Be helpful. People trust brands that, we talked about that reciprocity thing, right? If you're helpful to somebody, if your video led them to a better conclusion, if your, content was helpful in nature to them, if you showed them how to play that, solo on Don't Stop Believin', if you are helpful to them, then that built-in human reciprocity thing kicks in that we talked about earlier in the show. And that reciprocity kicks in and they say, well, I trust them. They've been helpful to me. They've been helpful to me, and not that they're trying to take advantage of me. They've legitimately tried to help me. People can tell when you're full of crap and when you're actually trying to help them, And by the way, don't try to help them as a means to do something else, right? That's just like a Dr. Evil type of plan. That's not going to work. Just be helpful. It's not hard. It's a human thing. We like to help each other. That's what we do. Very, very important. And, there are a lot of good examples. I talked about the musician's friend thing, and I got 7 emails from them. Not one of them are helpful. Not one of them. What would be so bad about sending me, here's what an artist is doing with this new product or something. And maybe it's helpful. They're on tour with this. Here's a, I don't know, something else besides, here's a 25% off coupon, and please come to our site and don't leave it, and so we can convert you and convert you. By the way, marketers, stop using the term conversion and that kind of thing. It makes me think of like a religious thing. Like you're going to come and you're going to convert me, and suddenly I'm going to be worshiping cheese. It's like get over yourself. You're not converting crap. Okay, what you're doing. You're if we're there, we're there for our reasons and our stuff. It's probably nothing that you did. And honestly, if marketing's involved, you're probably just going to screw it up before we get out there, because you're going to throw up some kind of little barrier that comes up and says, would you like 10% off? I'm trying to surf the site looking at shirts or something, and it comes up and says, would you like 10% off? And now I can't see the shirts because all I can see is it's just like, digital marketers, you guys are the worst. You're the freaking worst. I mean, because you don't have any education in marketing, and it shows. It shows. Seriously, crack a book. I sit on panels with digital marketers all the time, and those guys blow me back at the fact that they have no earthly idea what it is that we're supposed to be doing in this profession. So don't be a part of that. It's really important. And again, tip number 2, helpful is always good. Helpful builds trust. Helpful is educational, and it builds trust. Very important. Number 3, listen. Listen. I talk about listening a lot. Always the part of communications that gets rolled right over because it's not fun or sexy or anything. But listening is a big deal. United Airlines, they broke the trust of their employees with this lottery system when they were just trying to reward people for doing a good job. How can you start out trying to reward people for doing a good job? Give them money, find different ways of giving them money, and they still end up pissed off at you. The reason that you can do that is when you don't listen to people, when you move forward, and then you won't have to, push pause on the program and blah, 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 blah. Listen to people. Listen. In social media terms, people talk about things all the time, and they will tell you how they want to be served. They will tell you. In the music industry, where I have a lot of my clients, musicians talk on forums all the time. They'll talk about gear. They'll talk about artists. They'll talk about things that disappointed them. They'll talk about things that they loved. They'll talk about things. You have to learn how to listen to those things. You have to be good at listening to them, and you have to be, if you want to venture in and start commenting on things like that, then you have to be, respectful and all of that. But if you want people to trust you, you must first take an interest in them by listening to them. When people feel heard, then that reciprocity kicks in. That reciprocity kicks in, that delayed reciprocity we talked about in the opening segment about trust. And it locks in that thing, and we say, okay, you've listened to me, and now I will listen to you. That kind of thing, That's a real human thing, by the way. That's a real human thing that we have built in, is that we all want to be heard, and then we are willing to hear other people, after we're heard. But you shut somebody down and make sure that they're and you basically make them feel like they're not being heard, and now you got the angry side. Now you got the side that United Airlines had to deal with. Now you got that side. So don't do that. Don't do that. It's easy. Number 4, really important in terms of building brand trust, be honest. Be honest. And that includes, and I include, don't be full of crap with your communications. I have spent my entire career not writing quotes like those stupid ones that I read where they're, where it feels like a room full of PR people wrote it, and no actual person would ever say it. Be honest. The news isn't always good news. I was working with a startup company, and I heard a reporter that said, I want to hear about startup challenges. I don't want to hear about startup success stories. I want to hear about some of the challenges because people, I believe that my column can help other startups learn from some mistakes. So I advised my client. I said, we're having some challenges, finding some staff and doing some things here. We should open up and talk about that. And then this idea was so foreign to them that that the idea that we would talk about something that wasn't good news. And I said, look, it's not all good news. It's not always going to be good news. But we are in the business of what in public relations? We're in the business of helping reporters. And if we have a story that can help them and maybe help somebody else, then again, we can win a lot of trust points, right? And they were, they were very uncomfortable kind of doing the thing. But I urge companies, get more comfortable with this. Get more comfortable with saying, look, we're not perfect. We make mistakes. You're going to find it a hell of a lot easier to do that, than to maintain this pristine, golden tower of nothing ever goes wrong, Camelot kind of thing. It's BS. Everybody knows it. We all live in the same world. We all know that stuff. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to be honest with people. I like companies who are honest. I like companies who lead with honesty, and I like companies who, I like them more when they are honest, to be honest. So do that. Do that. That's how you build brand trust. And on the same kind of note, the last tip is keep your promises. If you promise, and this goes all the way from, yourself personally and building your own trust of your own personal brand. If you say you're going to do something, then you do it. If you say you're going to be there at 2, then you're there at 1:50. If you say the document is going to be to them by the end of the day on Friday, then it's there by 4 p.m. That's how we, and organizationally, keep your promises to people. Very, very, very important. You make promises to your customers that your product's going to work, that you're going to have a good warranty, that you're going to back them, that if something does go wrong, they're going to have this. Those are the kind of things where you win customers. Hartkey won my business forever when they fixed an amp that they didn't have to fix of mine. And I still remember that to this day. I was really, really impressed with the management and what they did. So keep your promises. What have we learned today, kids? Well, marketing really wants to promote. They want to sell. They want to just shell the beachhead. But what we really need is trust. If marketing is going to get better as a profession, we must start by understanding the premise of the profession should change, truly change, to trust. And when that happens, we'll start to get that important trust. Because everything else is just marketing. That's it for me, marketing fans. Until next week, this has been Scott Robertson, the host of May the Best Brand Win on Intertalk Media. Have a great weekend. Rock on. We'll see you later. Bye-bye. You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear from Eclectica Studios. I'm a full-time mixing and recording engineer. I work with Grammy winners, labels, and indie artists, using state-of-the-art digital mixing and restoration tools and the very best in analog gear. Really, though, it's my ability to bring tracks to life and fulfill your vision